Howdy. In this episode of Yates American B244, we get some brand new cutter head knives installed and adjusted. So these are the new knives. Okay, the original knives are in here from when I had the spindle dynamically balanced. To remove them, I'm going to start at the center gib and loosen it all the way around, and then the next outer gib and loosen it all the way around, and then the final gib and loosen it all the way around. I want the gib screws to remain snug enough that they'll retain the knife when everything is loose. And then I'll move to the next outer gib, work this side and then the other side, and do this all the way around. And then with the second pair of gibs loosened, we'll move out to the outermost gib, working one side and then the other side. And now I'm actually going to use the jack screws to lift the knives up. And then in with the new knife. Lift screws need to be pretty much turned all the way in. Okay, with the lift screws all the way down and the knife in, just make sure it's seated all the way down. So I'm just barely making the center screw of each gib touch the knife. The knife needs to be loose enough that I can come back after I get all four knives in and start adjusting the height. So I've got all the new knives in there, and they are all just held in light enough that I can still move them with the lift screws. Then I went through and checked them all the height with my gauge. So this is just a little bridge that I made out of wood. Takes a dial indicator, and I'm using a flat anvil. And I was checking the height of the different knives to see which one was highest, and that one was going to be my target for adjusting all the others. So about 35. So that's going to be my 0. Here's the other end of that same knife. It's pretty close, but I'm going to go ahead and lift it up just a little bit. That's better. So now with both ends of the knife adjusted to the same height, we'll go through and just barely snug up all the gibs. And then move on to the next knife, adjust its height, and snug up the gibs and repeat. For the curious, here are the excruciating details of knife height adjustment. So ideally, this gib screw and the same gib screw at the other end are the ones that should be just barely snug. This anvil is going to be rubbing on the knife, and you want to draw the knife backwards across the anvil so that it's not cutting the anvil with the knife. So this particular knife is not registering at all. So I'm going to lift the screw a little bit. You can kind of feel it rising. So we'll check it now. So now we're getting a register. It looks like, you know, my 0 point is there at 0. So we're about -10. Need to raise the knife another 10 thousandths. And it doesn't take much. A little bit more. Looks like I overshot just ever so slightly. That's good. So I'm going to snug this one gib screw a little bit more, and then I'll move down to the other end and do the same thing. Okay, so the knives are all adjusted to the same height. Now I'm going to go through 2 rotations of snugging the center gib, and then the next outer gib, and then the most outer gib. So now working the second gibs. and then the outermost gives. And then after that first sequence, we'll do the same sequence again, making them just a little bit tighter, basically just checking to make sure they're snug. Okay, so what's the big deal about the sequence I was describing about tightening the gibs? Well, the big deal is if you insert one knife in all the gibs and tighten all the gib screws to final torque without doing any of the other knives, there's a good chance you're going to distort the cutter head and it's going to be warped. So you want to go through the sequence of gradually tightening all the gib screws so that everything is evened out and minimize distortion. Next up, we'll adjust the feed rolls, the pressure bar, and the chip breaker.